today's class, we're going to talk about the Islamic perspective of psychology. And there is a person who's very well known for his work on um, Islam and psychology, and his name is Professor Malik B. Badri. And he wrote a book not so long ago, which is titled The Dilemma of Muslim Psychologists. In Professor Badri's book, he debunks many of the assumptions that Muslim psychologists and Muslims have about psychoanalysis. This is because most, and well, not to say most, but a number of Muslim psychologists believe in the idea of Freud without questioning any of his assumptions. So Professor Malik Badri found this to be very problematic because Freud, as we all know, tried to make popular his idea on it, sexual desire as controlling our every movement and behavior, as well as the belief in Oedipus complex and structuring our adult life, the way we um, develop affections for somebody outside of the family and so on. Yeah, according to Dr. Malik Badri, all of this does not have any scientific verification. From his personal experience, he wrote about a devout Muslim psychiatrist that he had told the parents. No, he wrote about this devout Muslim psychiatrist who had told the parents of a 3-year-old who had an irritable um, anus, and he was scratching it all the time. And he had told his parents that it was a normal phase in the sexual development on as it represents the anal stage. So Freud believed it is to gratify his libidinal instinct, the act of scratching one's anus. But as Professor Malik Badri mentioned, it was found out later that the child was suffering from certain anal worms that caused a lot of itching. So there was nothing to do with anal phrase and so on, yeah? Because it was simply something that had bothered the child. A kind of worm had invaded his body, so he was scratching it. So there is no scientific verification for Professor Freud's ideas. So Badri also argued against some professors who tried to explain religious obedience to the existence of the superego. One such person was Professor Mustafa Zewa, who he quotes as saying, "There is no doubt, therefore, that psychoanalysis shows in the clearest way the sources of religious feelings and the development of religion in man. The child idolizes his father and sees him as most powerful and knowing, but as he passes through the well-known Oedipus stage, and as he discovers his father's weakness, he finds no way but to bestow the all-knowing and powerful to a new higher being, that is God." So this is the way the other professor tried to argue for the existence of religious feelings inside of people. People need some type of religious feeling because, according to the psychoanalysis idea, and according to Professor Mustafa Ziwar, at this point in time, um, it represents an audible stage, and the religion represents in this audible stage the superego, the image of the superego that is needed to control his id and unconscious, so that it is kind of like suppressed to a certain extent that could be accepted by society. So, according to Professor Badri, and I'm quoting him as saying, "One would have expected a truly Muslim psychologist to develop an Islamic view from the very basic assumption from which Freud developed his atheistic theory on religious development. For example, the inborn tendency of children to make gods out of the powerful adults and mysterious forces can be viewed as a scientific support of the concept of fitrah." So, what is fitrah? Fitrah is the ethical and religious instinct portrayed by Islam, which leads man from early childhood to know his true one God and to do good, and which can be distorted if the child is brought up by immoral and atheist parents. Now, Professor Malik Badri is pointing out the existence of fitra in all of us, in all Muslims, that actually makes them um, more, what they call that, accommodating to the idea of God, because it is something that is inborn of in us, the idea of fitra, and this is supported by researchers in the West. Not so long ago, a research was done by Oxford researchers who um, tried to reason about children and their belief in things that cannot be seen, like elves and fairy tales, fairies. And they argued, from the experiment that they had done, that children tended to believe in fairies and elves because it is something that is inborn inside of them. There is the idea that a thing could exist without being seen. Okay, so this is an idea that is supported by the West even. So there is no such thing as um, religion as being one of the figures of the superego. Religion is simply there, and also the belief in religion is something that is ingrained inside of us because of our fitra. So that is the end of our lesson today on Islamic response to psychoanalysis. Thank you.